Soapbox Sermon number 1, April 2nd, 2018. I'm just doing it, just to do it. It's super unprepared. I just wrote some notes when I was sitting in the hotel on the mouth of the Chicago River that Sheridan with my niece Lizzie, who is 18 and is wonderful. And we just had such a lovely, civilized day and night. Less than 24 hours, just about, in Chicago. It was fun. Um, and just reflecting on how much I love this season. Easter is super beautiful. I love the crucifixion. I love the transformation of the mob from Palm Sunday through to crucifixion and the quiet of the resurrection, and how few sort of were aware of that. I think it's so interesting. And then Passover has become really dear to us. This is the third year that we've hosted Scooty's theater school classmates for Passover. That was really important to Margot. And so we hosted the first one and then grew. And this year we had 18 people and 5 Jewish people who were really at the center, really celebrating and then wanting to have their friends and loved ones around and share it. And it's really beautiful. So that was beautiful. And I think Passover, the suffering and the recognition of the shit that they've been through, and the resilience, the steadfastness of staying afloat, right? And always moving toward Jerusalem, which I think is super beautiful, wherever that may be. And then of course Easter is super dear to me. The Via Dolorosa was my favorite like piano piece to play. Down the Via Dolorosa, right? The way of suffering, where Jesus was like dragging that cross. Man, I used to love to give that imagery of just the cross and the pain and the suffering, and to express it in piano. And so this year for Palm Sunday, I played it and wondered what it would be like to play that song as a Quaker, with peace and strength, and with the weight of that sacrifice, without the sort of over dramatization to tug at your heartstrings and drag you into a decision. Which is why I took a break from piano for a long time, because that was my favorite part, and that seduction and pulling people in is not going to be easy for me to get rid of. And so I've spent the last couple of decades figuring out how I want to use that power and that passion. So this is kind of where the soapbox sermons come in, which I'm not on a soapbox. I am sitting on the porch at the farmhouse. I'm just going to post this a little bit later. So, but I love the season, and I think, what is so great. Let me see my notes. Luxurious having my niece here. Yeah, it was super luxurious having my niece here. She's super cool. And my niblings are so interesting and fun and beautiful. I've got nearly a dozen blood and then a couple dozen adopted. And being Uncle Jojo is my favorite thing. And getting to be there in these times when, their parents are not sufficient. Super fun and humbling. Anyway, so to have her through all of this, right? So we did Easter with the Quakers, and then we went into Chicago and had just a wonderful time. Deep dish pizza and swimming in the pool and going to the Goodman to see an Ibsen play. All right, she loved it. I fell asleep a couple times, but that's not for me. But this time of Easter and Passover, really, transformation, sacrifice, suffering, and resurrection, right? And so, part of this whole liberation thing is putting to death certain things, so that others can rise, right? And so we can put away the things of childhood, right? That we can or put away the things of adulthood, right? And let childhood sort of reemerge. I mean, that's probably more what we need to do. More in that authenticity, right? Not in the immaturity of a child, but in the authenticity that is hard for them not to do. And so it's a great time. Whenever I'm looking for a good sense of how I naturally authentically function, I'll usually call my parents and ask a few questions about what I was like as a little munchkin. And so, yeah. So anyway, that's a nice little tool. And oh, there's Chi. She's getting me the password to post this on our Summers 2018. So we'll see how that goes. But I think the transformation that matters so much to me requires some of that putting to death and then resurrecting something in a newness of life, which is baptism. I did one baptism when we were in Costa Rica, and I baptized her to the disunity that was her different selves, and rose her to the unity to walk in newness of life. I like that newness of life. I think that was part of our baptismal ceremony. But I think, when I was in Costa Rica, I baptized myself a bunch. When the first time I baptized myself was, I think it was about a decade ago, maybe 9 months ago, or 9 years ago. And I had a ticket to go on Southwest that I needed to use. And I flew to see my brother in Denver. And then I went and camped by myself, which I used to do pretty consistently. This was about the third year I was going to do it. And I went up to the Rocky Mountain National Park, and Jeff made a great CD. And Rocky Mountain High, is that the name of it? The John Denver song. Oh my gosh, I played that like 11 times. It was such perfect timing. He's quite good at that. But I went up there and went hiking, spent the day by myself, went hiking, and got off trail and was super scared that someone was going to come along and be like, "Sir, you need to get back on that trail." And no one was coming. And then there was a stream, and I was very far from the trail anyway. So I just took off all my clothes and I laid down in the stream and baptized myself. And I didn't know why or in what way. I just knew that what had my life had not been working. And I needed to raise someone new, right, and put to death someone. And then after that, I went into the forest and buzzed my hair off and left my hair for the squirrels and the birds to make. I know I littered, but it was pretty organic, except for all the product that was probably in it. And I felt so bad for this young couple. I think they must have been from Spain. They spoke Spanish. They looked like they were international, like transcontinental sort of travelers. And they had a little child, and this long-haired dude was camping next to them, and then showed up. Then this other dude showed up like this. That dude, the father was watching me very closely all night, which was not helpful because I was bucking around naked. No, I wouldn't be inappropriate. But anyway, I did, and that was really, I think, a huge turning point for me. And these baptisms in Costa Rica, the ones I remember, and they're not necessarily to remember. I mean, I just let them happen, right? I laid to rest my obsession with what people think and rose in the newness of life to really listen to my voice and act out my calling. I laid to rest my need to accomplish to prove my worth, and rose to the newness of life that I am enough. I laid to rest my disintegrated self, finally bringing my sexuality in full unity with myself, and letting that sex room settle naturally into the room that is my being. That was who I rose to. And that had happened ahead of time. I just did the physical representation of that. Probably all of these probably did. And so I think that spring just gives us such a beautiful moment to think about blooming, right? After dormancy, after storms, after the pain and annoying and lonely and confused and of the winter, spring gives us the time to see the blooms and see the blossom of the shit that has been fertilized. And so grateful for this opportunity to step into spring and the resurrection and step into a new life. So I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm going to spend some time the next 4 days really mapping it out. So, all right, it's coming up on 10 minutes. Happy Soapbox Sermon number 1.